All right, Jeff, I want to get into the Lakers.
Okay.
The Lakers from 96 to 2004. That is the topic of your book, Three Ring Circus.
Mhm.
That Lakers team with Kobe and Shaq probably scarred me more than any other sports team in the history of my fandom. Being a Sacramento Kings fan, especially that 0-2 series, game six, I want to get your thoughts on what happened there. So we'll slowly maybe build up to that 0-2 series. But let's start with Kobe and who Kobe was coming into the league, and then how Kobe progressed as the Lakers team progressed towards their first ring.
Well, I mean, he came in, he was barely 18. You think about how young that is now. It's just crazy. He was 18 years old coming into the
Mm.
league. He was a pretty self-assured kid, but also like really socially awkward kid who would spend a lot of his youth in Italy. Um, then goes to this leafy suburb, Lower Merion, and plays. So he's like, it's a weird phenomenon. I grew up in a mostly white town, and my best friend was black. And it gave me a little bit of an understanding of what it is to grow up black or just different in a town where everyone looks differently. And um, in a lot of ways, you are forced, you are expected to behave a certain way, and there's a little bit of pressure to fulfill those expectations. Like I remember when I was growing up, we had two black kids in my grade of 330 kids. And everyone just assumed they would be good break dancers. This is the 80s. It's super weird, but everyone assumed that. I remember this vividly. They must know breakdancing and blah, blah, blah. And then you kind of feel like, well, I guess I need to know how to breakdance. Like it's this weird need to conform to the expectations of others because you're young and you don't yet have the self assuredness. And that was kind of Kobe. And he was really awkward. And when he showed up at the Lakers, he's trying to be what he sees around him in Nick Van Exel and Eddie Jones and Shaq and Cedric Ceballos, but he's not that guy. Like he's not the cool young guy who's like, knows how to talk to women and like he's not that. So it led to a lot of awkwardness. And he was really deliberately trying to project this like I'm the man kind of thing. His first meeting with his teammates, they go around, everyone goes around introducing themselves. This is at camp. And he goes, my name is Kobe. I'm from Lower Merion. Nobody here is going to punk me. He was 18 years old saying this to Shaq and Nick Van Exel. It's like, fuck you. Nobody's going to punk you. So he really tried and he succeeded in putting up this wall. And like teammates didn't like him, like they tolerated him. They kind of respected him. When he shot the 4 air balls versus Utah as a rookie, I mean, that was a disaster. And on the one hand, they admired that he had the guts to do it. And on the other hand, it's like, who the hell is this guy? You're 18, 19 years old, and he's a weird character because on the one hand, he's horribly unlikable as a young person in a lot of ways. But on the other hand, everything he was doing at that age made him who he was. Like, he did not care if you thought he was an asshole. He did not care about choking in Utah. Like, he was back in the gym shooting jumpers that very night. He didn't care if you didn't want to talk to him. When he got married to his Vanessa, who he met when he was like 19 and she's in high school, he didn't invite a single teammate. And not only did not invite a single teammate, he didn't even tell him he was getting married. Like, he just didn't care. And like, for as much as a warped personality as that developed, it also gave him a really thick skin and an immunity to criticism from teammates. So all those times Shaq would be annoyed at Kobe for not coming to him, for not confiding in him. Kobe didn't give a shit. In a lot of ways, Kobe was more of the adult than Shaq because Shaq was very sensitive. And Kobe was like, look, this is me. I don't care. I don't care if you like me. I'm not Batman to your Superman. That does not interest me. I'm not engaging in your superhero fantasies. Like, I'm Kobe Bryant. I should be the best guy in this team. And that's who he was.
Yeah, I think back to Mike Silsky's book on Kobe, which kind of studies the upbringing of Kobe. And to your point, you see a lot of that growing up in Italy. I think there's a story in there where he's playing with his dad's Italian club team, and he's yelling at these grown men saying, pass me the fucking ball, or what I
Yeah.
mean. And Kobe's what, maybe 13, 14 at the time in this, the random Italian club team, just
Yeah.
yelling at these guys. And my main takeaway from Mike's book was when Kobe came back to the States, and what you just mentioned with him being awkward, he didn't know how to fit in. I mean, he went, to a mostly African American school and grew up in an area that was mostly African American, and he just didn't know how to fit in with that culture. You know, he was really into storytelling. He loved reading. And it just, he was kind of an outsider in a way through a lot of his high school career, which both hindered him but also helped him in the sense that he would be lonely a lot of times, and he would use that loneliness as an escape, use basketball actually as an escape to cure that loneliness and just practice for hours on end. I remember one of the things was they had, I think, just won the state championship, and the entire team was partying, and you know they're going to this friend's house to party, and Kobe stays for an hour and leaves and goes back home, and it's like, you know, every high schooler's dream to go to this, like, you know, big party, and you know all the girls are there and whatever, and Kobe's like, yeah, you know, I'm really not into this. So it's interesting how that kind of follows him as he gets to the Lakers.
Well, you're not just gonna, you know, you're not just gonna be 18 and change who you are because you're in the NBA. Like, you're not just gonna. Also, you can't hang out with these guys. You can't get into clubs. You're too famous to have a fake ID, so it's not like you can go out even if you want to. And he was just, more than anything, honestly, he was socially awkward and clumsy and cumbersome and didn't know the lingo and didn't know like, the NBA at the time was really emerging. You know, this was like the Slam magazine heyday and the merging of hip hop with basketball. So it was a lot of Allen Iverson and Stephon Marbury and Kevin Garnett. And it was like, you know, it was baggy jeans, and it was like, you know, Jay-Z's courtside and Nas's courtside, and like this merging. And Kobe, like, he was so not hip hop. He tried doing a rap album, and it's really bad. And it's very much more Will Smith sounding than it is Nas sounding. You know, like, it's just who he was. And he was very polished as far as appearance. He was a good looking guy, but he wasn't hip hop. He wasn't street. He wasn't that merging. He wasn't Iverson at all. And I think he tried to be a little bit, but you can't pull that off if you're not authentic about it, especially in the NBA. Guys will know it's a 90% black league. It's a league where a lot of guys grew up playing in the playgrounds, guys who are from the streets, guys who are from the inner city. They're going to know if you're full of shit or not.
When do you think the Shaq-Kobe relationship starts taking a turn for the worse?
I think it started from day one. I think Kobe made it very clear, I don't want to be your guy. So, like, I don't think it's like, oh, you know, 2002. It really, like, it was never great. It was tolerable because they were both really good. And it's funny, I got asked a lot when I was promoting that book, like, how are they able to win despite all the friction? And it's like, they were able to win because they were great. Like, you had two of the, 10 best players of all time on the same roster at the same time, with an amazing supporting cast and arguably the greatest coach of all time. So, like, the Shaq-Kobe relationship was never great. In fact, I interviewed Shaq maybe a year before Kobe died for this book. And I was talking to him. This was in Atlanta at Turner Studios. He was awesome. And, like, I asked him, we talk about how Shaq was always in on the joke. Like, that's the thing about Shaq. Shaq was always in on the joke. Shaq understood it was ridiculous that you're paying me millions and millions of dollars to wear pajamas and shoot a ball through a hoop. Like, that's a joke. And when he would nickname himself the Big Aristotle or Shaq Diesel, like, he was in on the joke. And I was like, I said to him, I was like, it always seemed like Kobe literally thought of himself as the Black Mamba. And Shaq's reply was, bro, you have no idea. And, like, that was it. Like, Kobe was very literal. He was the Black Mamba. And Shaq just all thought it was very entertaining and funny. So it was never a great relationship. They were just very good basketball players, you know?